What's your creepy national park experience or story? Posted up right outside of Zion Park in unmarked BLM campsite. It's almost midnight and a car drives up this backcountry dirt road that I'm set up on the side of. It's pitch black. Nobody around me for miles. There's plenty of empty sites all along this dirt path. This car drives right up to my spot and shines their car lights right into my site and tent. Nobody gets out of the car. But they stay there for 12 whole minutes. I was scared speechless. All alone with just a pocket knife and bear spray in my tent for protection. I was too terrified to get out of the tent. Then they started to drive to the end of the dirt road, which is a dead end. They never turned back around. So I assumed they stopped for camp. I barely slept that night. I was too scared. Next morning I was up and ready to go a little after sunrise, so as I left I went up to the end of the road to loop around and there was nobody up there. Nobody. I feel like there's no way I could have slept through them leaving. But I guess there's the tiniest possibility. Or it was a Utah ghost car. Who knows? All I know is that was one of the creepiest camping experiences of my life. My mom and 3 of her siblings with her met a serial killer right before his arrest. Just over 20 years ago my mom, 2 of her sisters and her younger brother rented a cabin just outside Yosemite. The plumbing and toilets were clogged the day of some sightseeing they planned, so they had to have the handyman fix it. The handyman was Kerry Stainer. He was arrested not long after their trip and they all recognized him as the handyman that fixed the plumbing in their cabin. I watched a guy casually hang his backpack on a tree and remove his glasses and hat. Then just strolled over the edge of the Grand Canyon. Didn't stop or even hesitate. Never even looked at anyone. Just walked off the edge. I got one. I was a part of a 3-person trail crew. We were a good 26 miles from the trailhead. We were working on diverting the existing trail from an eroding cliff. This new trail was going to be a 7-mile diversion. So we were 5 miles into building the new trail. About another half day until we linked up with the old trail. It's mid-morning. So we decide to take a quick break. I leave my 2 crew members to go answer nature's call. So I am digging a cat hole to go in. When I hear someone whistling of a tune, I just assume it's my crew. So I call out that this place is occupied. The whistling stopped. It was quiet. Then it started again. It moves just below where I am at. Down the hill a ways I see 2 men. Both men were dressed in black suits and top hats. Carrying canes. Just casually walking in the middle of the wilderness. No packs. No water bottles. Looking like they were taking a stroll in a park after an opera. I don't think and just start walking back to my crew way freaked. I tell them what I just saw. We all go back and just catch them leaving. One of my crew screams down at them and waves. They ignore us and just keep casually walking until they're out of sight. They weren't using any trails. Just walking in between trees. Just a weird and freaky experience for all 3 of us. I don't think we hardly slept that night. We finished our trail that following morning and raced back to civilization. Just took note of it in our weekly report. Just in case those people did get lost out there. Saw a ghost face at Fort Macon in a window that looked into one of the rooms that didn't have public access. When I went to look again, it was gone. There was no glass in the window. Nothing in the room I could see reflecting my own face. The room was pitch black. Tour guide ignored me when I asked if it was the ghost of a soldier from one of the wars. Or even the ghost of Blackbeard. Never saw it again and I go back all the time. This happened to a close friend. We were supposed to go with him on a hike. But our dog got hurt, so we decided not to go. He hiked alone a lot, so he had no issues going alone. It was supposed to be a short hike to a waterfall, not exploring the woods. The next day he calls us to tell us he found something odd and wanted to show us a picture. Sorry, I don't have it. He was walking along the trail and decided to go off trail towards a peak. As he was walking, he found a trail in the middle of the woods, and 1/2 mile from the main trail. He figured it just attached to another trail, so he followed it about another 1 mile. It ended up going to a small cabin in the middle of nowhere. He said he instantly felt like he shouldn't be there. He snapped a picture and went back the way he came. He went to a ranger's station and told them what he found, expecting them to say it was something historic. They had no idea that cabin was there. They sent someone out immediately to check it out. He never heard from them after that and decided he will never go hiking alone again, in case it was a serial killer or crazy person out there. Not me. But my health teacher a couple years back was in a park in winter. She was taking pictures of everything. And there was this bridge. In the photo, she caught someone spying on her, showed the class the picture. She didn't notice him at first and he was a bit hard to spot without him being pointed out. She found him a bit later, still being a creep. She ran as fast as she could outside and took the picture to the police once she noticed him in it. They couldn't do anything about it though because he was wearing a face mask pre-COVID. My brother is a NPS ranger. He says there's some spooky stuff in the parks, particularly in the Southwest. I've posted some of these before, but here are short versions of some of his better stories. He was camping in Big Bend National Park and he and his roommate had the exact same dream of being chased by a big black bull through the mountains. They Googled it on the way home. Turns out the area they were camped at is haunted by a witch that takes the form of a big black bull. I think it's called Bruja Mountain or something. He worked at Arches National Park in Utah for a while. One of his ranger friends took a kayak trip somewhere in Utah, camped out by the side of the river. She had a super vivid dream that night of hearing something splashing in the water outside. When she went outside her tent, there was a naked woman in the river. The woman tackled her and began choking her so violently that when she woke up she was still gasping for air. The next morning there were cougar tracks all around her tent and down by the river. She spoke with a native friend about this. And sure enough, that area of the river is supposedly haunted by a skinwalker. Apparently skinwalkers take the form of cougars often. As a quick aside, as part of his job my brother would go to local elementary schools and give talks about nature and animals and whatever. Whenever he went to a native majority school, he couldn't mention certain animals, because they're associated with skinwalkers. Cougars and owls, I think. A friend of his had a Bigfoot encounter at a large national park in the Pacific Northwest. This guy is a super experienced biologist. Doesn't like talking about this because it could screw up his career. But several years ago he and another ranger were doing field work in the backcountry, and were driving parallel to a river. On the other side of the river, they saw, and I quote, what looked like an extremely tall man, all in black, wearing a hoodie. This thing saw them and took off after them. What spooked my brother's friend was it was keeping up with their truck, running like a man and jumping over rocks and logs and stuff. Again, he doesn't like talking about it because this guy is a semi-famous biologist up there and claiming a Bigfoot encounter could hurt your reputation. Plus it sounds like it scared the speep out of him. Apparently the famous old hotel at Old Faithful in Yellowstone is super haunted. Well, there was the time I think I was the ghost for some hikers. In the Bay Area at one of the many abandoned military forts. It may be a state park, not national, now that I think about it. My friend and I climbed into an abandoned bunker through some broken bars to take pictures of the interesting graffiti. Since we weren't supposed to be there, When we heard some people came, we naturally hid in some little hallways and waited them out. But they were kind of frat boy sounding guys who were obviously just out for a nice hike and explore. But one of them said something that made me laugh. Since I was hiding, it sounded very strangled and echoey. My friend and I just heard them go silent. Then a mad scramble as they ran back toward the parking lot. It wasn't until we climbed out that I really appreciated how creepy a girlish giggle would have been coming from this dark, abandoned bunker, lol. So boys who were hiking in the Bay Area outside/north of SF in around 2016. It wasn't a ghost. Just a girl who didn't want to get in trouble for trespassing.